Roll call.
Parker. Here. Miscelinich.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Zittergruen.
Here.
Chisel. Hadley.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Is there anyone who wishes to approach the council on anything that's not on the agenda? Hearing, seeing none. That's my honor. Whereas the year 2024 marks the 175th anniversary of the founding of Decorah, Iowa. And whereas Native Americans have resided in what is now Iowa for thousands of years, and whereas the written history of Iowa begins with the proto-historic accounts of Native Americans by explorers Marquette and Joliet and others in the 1680s, and whereas Iowa became part of the United States of America after the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, whereas in the 1930s, Euro-American settlements appeared in the Iowa Territory, and United States statehood was acquired in 1846. And whereas the William Painter and William Day family arrived in the place that is now Decorah in June of 1849 and filed individual claims comprising the west and east part of the town. And whereas Decorah has grown substantially in its history and now has achieved significant economic and cultural development and is home to people of diverse ancestries and ideologies. And whereas these people and the natural features of the area have contributed to the development and vitality of the town, and now, therefore, I, Lorraine L. Borowski, Mayor of the City of Decorah, on behalf of the City Council of Decorah, Iowa, do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2024 as the 175th anniversary of the creation of Decorah. Please note different media articles online on activities that are going to be on Saturday the 15th, so you can take part in all the festivities. Consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the May 17, 2024 meeting and May 20, 2024 meeting. B, claims. C, special event application, lawn chair night, downtown Decorah betterment. D, special event application, Ridiculous Days, July 20, 2024, Decorah Downtown Retailers. E, renewal Class C retail alcohol license, Magpie Cafe and Coffee House. F, Decorah 2023 Miller Park Trail Improvements Project, pay application number 2 in the amount of $16,925.11. And G, Decorah 2024 Bioretention Cell Project, pay application number 1 in the amount of $25,948.60.
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Zittergruen, seconded by Chisel. Any discussion?
I have one comment. So I'm not going to pull it out of the consent agenda, but I do hope that with Ridiculous Days that they have asked, I know they're asking for all of Water Street. I have heard from retailers who don't want all of Water Street closed on this particular event. Again, this is sort of the whole in the middle feeling that I have. We don't have a policy, so as far as I'm concerned, it should stay in the consent agenda, but I do know that there are retailers downtown who don't want the entire street closed for this particular event.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Motion carried. Conduct public hearing on conveyance of city-owned real estate to Kevin and Christine Quandel. Can you give background on that, please?
Yes, so I'll give background. Item 6 is the public hearing and 7 is the actionable item of council. The public hearing was set at last month's meeting. This area, this parcel is actually, I think some in the crowd might be confused on location. This actually isn't near the residential property of Christine or Kevin Quandall. It's actually off of Oneota Drive. And so this is a parcel that began as part of a transaction, a land transfer, the discussion around 98, 97, best we can tell, with action taken in around 2001 that the city received. It'd be the east end of the Quandall's property to construct the turnaround on Oneota Drive where it meets Doug Road. The city needed more land there. In exchange, the city was to deed this parcel that's being considered on the northwest area of that Quandall property that currently even has a building sitting on it that was already encroaching upon the city-owned lot. And so this action here and being considered by council tonight is to carry out a land transfer that was overlooked 23 years ago.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item during the public hearing? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Consider resolution approving conveyance of city-owned real estate to Kevin and Christine Quando.
I move the resolution approving conveyance. Parker seconds.
Motion made by Zittergron, seconded by Parker. Any other comments?
Wait. Sorry, I was looking at the map.
Do you have any comments or questions?
Well, I guess I feel like, I mean, to be honest, I had my attention on council stuff this morning. It does seem like we're giving up land and switching something from 20 years ago that we don't necessarily have the whole story for, or we do have the whole story.
We do have, so also part of that map includes the easement that the city is going to retain for utilities that are part of that lot. The city typically does not retain an easement on its own property. Everything that we found has pointed to the intent was to convey that lot over to the Quandalls as part of this exchange, but this was one parcel that missed.
And do we know why it didn't fully happen? That's what gives me pause.
Mhm.
Like, this is this thing that seemed like it was all tied up with a bow and then didn't happen.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if there was something that someone saw at that time that we have not had time to see.
I think the engineer's letter said that the one possibility is that this particular parcel wasn't in bold when the subdivisions were happening and all the other ones were bolded in that document. And this one wasn't in bold because it didn't need to be subdivided. And so that's why it might have been overlooked when they were doing the transaction back in 2001. Am I getting that wrong?
No.
Something like that.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Zittergren.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Jizzle.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider resolution requesting of Alliant Energy's removal of street light in the vicinity of 606 West Water Street. Can you give background on that, please?
Yes, so it's a pole that's actually already been removed, but Alliant requires this resolution of the council to remove from their accounting so that it takes it off the books. We stop being billed for it. This light location, just across the street and right within the same block, had a new, as part of the small cell tower construction that either US Cellular or Verizon did over the past few years. There is another light right across the block from where this pole was. This pole had a direct bury underground wire feeding it. The wire went bad, and so we removed the pole. Need this resolution of council so we stop being billed for it.
Hadley will make a motion to approve the resolution for the removal of the pole. Streetlight.
Second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Zittergren. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hadley.
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Miscellaneous.
Aye.
Consider resolution setting amount required as City of Decorah additionally insured. Can you give some background on that, please?
Yes, so along with fees established by resolution of the council, how we've been making those ordinance changes over time. This was part of the same ordinance on special event permit applications, added, let's see, amount additionally insured as required by a resolution of the council. This establishes that as $2 million, which is the same as our retail dining and display permit.
Hadley will make a motion adopting the resolution for the additional insured amount.
Parker, second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Parker. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Hadley,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Miscellaneous,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Consider an ordinance amending section 10.52.220 parking on boulevards prohibited of the Decorah Municipal Code, and this is third reading.
So again, this would still prohibit parking on boulevards with that comma, except otherwise authorized by resolution of the council.
Have we had any comments?
None.
I would move for approval and adopt.
Second. Hadley.
Motion made by Chisel to approve and adopt and seconded by Hadley. Any further questions?
Just a comment. I've held my peace on this. Obviously, I care a lot about parking and maybe some of you tire of hearing me talk about parking. I hope that the council doesn't take this possibility for discretion as a license to liberally give permission for people to park on boulevards. There's good reasons that our sort of status quo or default is not to allow it. And I think that we should reserve this sort of special permission for truly exceptional circumstances. Parking on boulevards, not only sort of is likely to result in infringing the pedestrian rights of way, it also creates visibility issues for both motorists and for other users of our transportation system. So as we look at these cases going forward, I hope that we all remember that just because we do have this discretion now, that doesn't mean we have to be willy-nilly with it. And you can quote me on willy-nilly.
Roll call?
Chisel,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal. Parker.
Aye.
Miscellaneous.
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 13.44 of the Decorah Municipal Code related to stormwater management, third reading.
Okay, so again, this is meant to bring us in line with the recently adopted state legislation that said we cannot, that we are limited in our ability to regulate stormwater runoff, which includes, grabbing my notes. Changes include defining construction site to be the same as the state of Iowa's and changing the definition of the pre-developed condition. So before, everything, the pre-developed condition was considered grassland. Now, if you're building on top of the parking lot out back here, state code requires that your runoff coefficient is asphalt. So we're changing code to align with state code there. Also requires that the runoff coefficient is limited to the 5-year storm design. However, we have in the ordinance and is allowed by state code, anything beyond that the city wishes to impose, once approved by planning and zoning, the city has 60 days to pay for the additional design. And if we move forward with that additional design, we have to pay for the construction for anything beyond that 5-year runoff.
Hadley will make a motion approving the third reading of the amended ordinance, chapter 13.44.
Parker was second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Parker. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Neal,
No,
Ms. Linich,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Everyone, right?
Aye.
Consider an ordinance amending Decorah's sign ordinance and creating chapter 15.20 of the Decorah Municipal Code sign ordinance, third reading or first reading if alternative language is considered.
Okay, so I think this is gonna result in probably another tabling tonight. I think there was some miscommunication on the new alternative first, because I believe Councilmember Neal pointed out some concerns at the last meeting. And no alternative draft is ready to go. The misunderstanding was that if council members wanted to convey additional thoughts, that we would then implement those into the change. And I haven't received any additional thoughts. So on top of the discussion we had at the last meeting, council members have had some time to think this over. Are there additional thoughts that you have that you want to see in that alternative language?
and are we basing on draft A or B? So,
I would say based on the alternative that was presented at the last meeting.
which is now B.
B, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only that I really like section D on 1520.040. Other than what I brought up last time, I didn't find anything on B. Because when I went through A was what we had before, just cleaned it up. B is a little bit longer and more stringent or I shouldn't say stringent, just clarifies a lot of vocabulary words in the sign.
Correct.
I had a question about B, 15.20.60 on regulating electronic signs, which I think council sort of is assuming will mostly be about gas station price signs. There's new language saying that if it's visible or located in a residential zoning district, it has to be located 200 feet from the nearest parcel used for residential purposes. And I think that current gas station signs on College would fail that test. Now, obviously, they'd be grandfathered in, but I was drawing some lines on Google Maps today, and I think both Decorah Mart and Quick Star are their signs are within 200 feet of residential parcels. And so I just want to ensure that that's what the council wants going forward. For me, I think there's a distinction between a neighborhood sized and scaled neighborhood serving convenience store, which I want them to be able to share their prices with drivers by. And maybe, you all know that I wasn't a fan of the size of Quick Star on College Drive, but even there, if there's going to be a gas station, I think they probably ought to have a chance to fly their signs. So I want to be more thoughtful about that 200 feet. That's all. Maybe that should go down to 100 if we redraft it or something. Or maybe my line drawing on Google Maps was bad. I'm sure our engineer is probably better at that sort of thing than I am, but.
Wait, you're saying it should be less than it is in the current ordinance or more than?
I mean, in the current, if it's, the ordinance is drafted, it says 200 feet. What I'm saying is that there's gas stations in town that wouldn't meet that
Right.
minimum. And so I don't think the gas station's electronic signs are the problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I feel
Okay.
like we should lessen that hardship. Otherwise, I bet we'll be doing it in response to a site plan down the road
Yeah,
anyway.
no, I get that.
Would 100 be considered a minimal change?
Yeah, that'd be a minimal change, so that,
So we could, with a vote for B with a amended language?
yeah.
You,
just
yeah, you haven't had a first reading of the version B, so, I mean, it's not even, this was not published. This did not have to be published, so you're free to change as much as you want today if you do a first reading.
I mean, I like version B.
Stephen, do you want to bring B forward then with your amendment?
I guess I would, except I'm curious about where Travis was suggesting that we might want to table this tonight, just because you didn't hear feedback from council and you're eager that, you know, like, since we indicated we had feedback, you want to hear it first before we move forward. Is that?
So actually, I was just leaning over and asking Carrie if she could remember, Councilmember Neal, you raised a question about the definition of a word used in the ordinance. And
You're gonna-
cannot,
Flag. Government flag.
mhm. And
It didn't
did
get
you want to
changed.
see revisions to that section?
Yeah, but I thought we did, so that's my bad.
Yeah, no, there have been no revisions since the last time. And I think there was also maybe a question on, regardless of what type of flag it is, how many flags can be on a residential property, regardless if it's a government flag or,
On a residential property?
right? I thought there was a question maybe about that.
And that didn't come from me, but
Okay, maybe I misunderstood that question.
residential truck?
No. And remember on, yeah, public property or on our city property, that's different.
Yeah, so the question was about flags that have been adopted, sanctioned, that we are an elective body,
Oh, that's.
right?
Right.
So we are an elective body and we have sanctioned the pride flag, the Norwegian flag, which is a government flag, the Decorah school flag, which is not a government flag, which wouldn't, that's why the government flag thing is
Yeah.
a little tricky here.
Yeah,
Pride
you brought up,
Luther flag.
yeah, you brought up a good question. I guess I haven't come to a resolution of that, but in my mind, yes, the Norwegian flag is a government flag. The US flag is obviously a government flag. I do, in my mind, when I was drafting this, I did not think of the pride flag, the Luther flag, or any of, even the Decorah school flag as a government flag.
Well, and that's why, I think my question was, and this is why I didn't catch it this time. It says, and other flags that have been adopted or sanctioned by an elective legislative body of competent jurisdiction. Are we that?
Well, you are, and the one thing I thought of is, and I looked at some definitions of flags, and even in the U.S. code, I mean, it just and I could see where there could be a little room for confusion there, or for somebody to try to make confusion. And maybe what you want to do is it has to be adopted by ordinance or law, where your administrative policy on flags, I would say, is not, it's not an ordinance, right? It's administrative policy. It can be adopted with one reading. It's not put into the city code. I don't know if that completely answers the question, but I think it would help prevent maybe just kind of inadvertently with one action, creating a government flag. You know, you have a motion to approve flying a certain flag on a certain date for whatever recognition. And, you know, doesn't take a whole lot of action to do that. At least if it was by way of an ordinance or law, there's a little bit more work and thought and procedure to adopting it. That was about the best I could come up with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Was there a reason you used elected body versus city council? Because the school board's also an elected.
Well, I think if you read the whole thing, I'm thinking elected body, well, of another country.
Which one is that? Which one are you looking at?
This is just a definition of a flag.
Yeah. course,
Okay.
I was going to say of another country, but then there might be a question. North Korea, do they have an elected body? I don't. But there's got to be some type of. I think you have to define who gets to approve these flags.
So it sounds like the council has to decide whether they're comfortable having, if they want to do third, which what I heard, they really like the second, or which would be the first reading of the alternative language or to table.
And again, one other thing just to think about as kind of a backstop is, well, what's your concern about defining a government flag unless you're limiting the number of government versus non-government flags? And that's where I think when we were talking last time, I said, well, you could have a backstop if you just said, regardless of number of flags, you can have X number on private property. And then we don't have to get into the debate so much of
Yeah.
what type it is. At least, so even if there was a debate, well, okay, you can only have X number anyways.
I think mainly the reason it is flagged in my mind, the reason it's in my mind is I'm just trying to obviously cool the tempers around flags in general. And then there are also certain flags that I really would love to see not flown, but I might not, that's probably not my choice in a First Amendment right? So if someone wants to hang a swastika, I guess but I don't think any government body has figured that one out, so.
I think you could just limit the number of swastikas that,
You can have one swastika.
or
You just
size.
can't have
I mean, that's, time,
in some
place,
cases,
time,
we have
place and
limited
manner.
size,
Yeah.
And we have limited size. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can write a flag policy about hate flags. Right?
Well, and again, when we use the term policy,
Or,
we're now
or
talking administrative policy about what flags are allowed to fly on our
Our- right.
stuff because we fly them.
And maybe we don't even need to get into whether it's a government flag or non-government flag. You can just have X number of this type of device on your property. I mean, I used that term because it was in the prior one.
Mhm.
And then when I looked at a lot of examples, they had that. But, as we talk about it, I'm like, well, what does it matter? The distinction. I think the idea was, people can put up as many American flags as they want, but time progresses and we get other examples of things and people might want to limit it.
I don't know how others feel. I mean, I'm flag sensitive, so.
Is this possibly something we might want to table and bring up at a work session or something like that, so we get this thing right this time around?
I don't know that it's wrong just because of the language of flag. So I certainly wouldn't hold it up because of this. If there's other things that people see, I think B is a good policy. I think it addresses the holes that are in our current policy. And I think there's a certain amount of, if there needs to be more, then we can always do more or amend if we need to. We start seeing things like that happening, but.
So I do want to point out again, the difference between our flag policy, which dictates what the city council, what we fly on our flagpoles. This is city code. This is not the same as what the city's flag policy is.
And I should clarify, I'm really
talking.
talking about signs, all of signs, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to necessarily be a flag. It can be any sign that,
Right. I'm just trying to distance those two as
I
much
get
as
it.
possible.
I think, I can appreciate the struggles and sort of like, but obviously we have an appropriate role to play and in terms of being content neutral. I feel like this policy does a fine job of achieving that goal for the council. So I'm grateful for that part. Emily, I'm hearing you saying that you're okay kind of moving on from this conversation. I have one question about a different section, but I don't want to cut this short. On the wayfinding sign section, and let's see, to direct you all, that's 15.20.065. It's on page 19 in my PDF of this. I'm just curious, it says right now, the city council shall adopt by resolution. I wonder if you'd all be okay changing that to may adopt. That way we're not sort of, there's other places we have shells in our code where, I think that makes it cleaner but maybe I'm wrong. John, is that okay if we change that? Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then my other question about that, it makes it clear that the applicant for these wayfinding signs would pay a permit fee, an application cost. I assume that that would be intended to cover the cost of the sign and the administration of the program. Is that accurate? Because later, it does say that, that the city is responsible for the installation, maintenance, removal, and replacement of the sign. And I want to be clear that that isn't to be read as financially responsible. Is that?
Correct, because it even does state in there under the wayfinding that if the sign is deemed like in ill repair and needs replaced, then it is the responsibility of whoever's sign it is that it references, they have to pay for it. Again, we would have, as part of that resolution, the established fees associated with initial install, replacement, all of that stuff would be covered under that resolution. I agree, changing shall to may is a good idea, but in that resolution, we would have that stuff.
So everyone heard that Travis likes my idea. That's good. And then my last question in that section, it says at the end, as official signs, the signs are property of the city and shall not be given to the applicant upon the sign's removal. Is there any is that just, I mean, obviously we don't want to be giving stop signs away, but what else are we going to do with them? If it seems like a nice gesture that, hey, you paid for this thing, we installed it. If you want it, it's yours. I mean, it's not like we're going to reuse a sign that says, Chuck's Brewery. I'd like to strike that unless there's a compelling reason not to. And I know this all seems like very small details, but when you're passing laws, I think it's important to get it right.
Yep.
Because it's really hard to change them. Anyone opposed to striking that? Or city staff, give me a good reason not to? No, okay. Any council members not ready to move forward? Because I'm ready to move forward on this then. I would like to move the first resolution I'd like to move the first reading of resolution option B with the following amendments, changing shall to may in the section about establishing a wayfinding sign resolution or wayfinding sign, what's it called? Program. Striking as official signs, all wayfinding signs are the property of the city and shall not be given to the applicant upon the sign's removal, and reducing the minimum distance from residential parcels to 100 feet in the section on electronic signage.
Hadley will second.
Motion made by Zittergrun, as stated, and Hadley seconded. Any further discussion?
And just, it was 100 feet, correct?
That would be enough to catch everything.
I believe so, yeah. That the sign will not be given to the applicant.
If staff have any recommendations for a different number, I'm all ears. Okay.
Okay,
Question. Just to confirm, I measured on.
So that would work then. 100 feet. Okay. Thank you, John.
The engineering measurements are usually closer.
He has GIS and I have Google Image in my squinty eye.
okay. Roll call?
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Misselinich,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel.
No.
Did I start? I started with you, right? Neil?
You mean after these two? You started Zittergren, Ross.
I know, but I've gotten everyone, right? I
Yeah,
didn't. skip
yeah,
the pause that's thrown me off.
Just a reminder, when you go around at the end of the meeting and you voted no for something, could you please state why you voted no? Okay, discussion on dog bite incidents.
Okay, so we did have council members request this placed on the agenda. I believe a lot of this does stem around a single animal in the city limits. Police department is familiar with the animal, has been involved multiple times. The animal is currently being held in quarantine as a result of a bite. And Want to preface with staff is already working on updating our existing city code, which does have some vague areas in defining a vicious dog. And so that's what we're looking at updating and pretty much defining what our current draft we're working on defines a vicious dog would be deemed after an unprovoked attack upon a human or another animal, domesticated animal. And then once an animal is deemed vicious as a result of that definition, the owner would then be required to carry insurance, microchip the animal, and were there additional measures that we've got? Mhm. And if there were to be a second incident, then it is euthanization. That's where we're at currently.
I was the one that kind of had brought this up. But based on the conversations we had prior to this meeting, I appreciate the work that's already been done. Just in the sense, because I know I received quite a few emails from individuals within this incident, and like both Travis just said in some conversations with Chief, there's definitely a few vague areas, and it sounds that you guys are already addressing that. So other than that, I will look forward to seeing a finalized, copy of whatever is decided on, and then go from there.
I had also received contacts pertaining to the dog, I should say.
Me too. And is our code clear enough for this incident that this dog will no longer?
No, so
Be in
we
the
would,
neighborhood.
under our current code, what we would have to do is cite with the municipal infraction and request judgment from the courts to remove the animal or to euthanize if it's a continued issue.
So we would bring this particular incident to the court, or?
Correct.
Okay, and are we going to, or do you need direction on that? I will say
I
that,
guess I want to be careful about what we say in public
Yeah.
about.
Okay.
Right.
But we're going to see how certain things play out right now. I
Okay.
mean, and before we jump to the municipal infraction route.
okay,
Some things might resolve themselves, maybe not.
okay.
And if they don't, then we have that option.
It's so interesting being this cryptic. I
Well-
also have heard of a dog that's been causing trouble. I wonder if it's the same one. I suspect it is. In my case, I was told that I shouldn't walk up a certain street with my daughter, and that obviously that's an untenable situation for residents of the city. So,
Yeah, well, and sorry, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
trying to be
You're good,
cryptic.
John.
And to explain a little bit more, there is a procedure under Iowa law to have the county board of health involved. And that's the route we're looking at now because of our city code is I would say inadequate as far as dealing with this dog in this type of situation, or any dog like this. But there, under Iowa law, there is no prohibition on a dog running at large, right? That's a city code, but there is a prohibition on a dog that might have rabies and has bitten somebody, and confining a dog until it's determined that they don't have rabies. But if there's a violation of confinement, then there's perhaps some other remedies as well. And to be clear, that Board of Health is outside of our jurisdiction. That's a county issue.
Do we have oversight in terms of what confinement looks like for the dog? No, I mean, I think this dog broke off their confinement.
Mhm. So we can't necessarily prevent that type of situation. So my understanding is the latest incident, it did break off a chain. And my understanding is that one did not result directly in a bite, but certainly signs of aggression My understanding could be wrong. That's my.
No,
understanding.
bite, but
Yeah. But anyway,
they had to use
once it does break off that confinement, yes, then that individual would be in violation of what our draft is going to read because the dog has not been restrained. Whether it's adequate fencing, adequate leash, chain, we can't prevent if they're buying a what am I thinking? Porch swing chain and trying to use that to restrain the dog. We can't prevent that.
Well, my final comment, I mean, I just hope that we do everything possible that this dog does not return back to its location. Based on the entire neighborhood's experience with the dog.
Speaking of the draft rules, I appreciate the sort of two strikes and you're out approach. I think that there's some wisdom there. I think though we also all understand that there's a difference between a 1-year-old lab that gets away from its handler and nips someone who's walking down the street in a bit of playfulness, which would put it in violation of this, it sounds like, and an attack with the potential to maim or kill a human or a domesticated animal. And I'm curious, I guess I'm hoping that we can distinguish between those as a matter of judgment as we exercise sort of oversight of this law. But also I want to make sure that as you're drafting it, you have a mind to that. I could also imagine pretty clear first strikes and you're out scenarios. I mean, I don't think if a dog attacks a child and leaves them with permanent scarring, I don't think that they should get a second chance. And so I'd like to be consideration for exceptional circumstances as well. And mostly cheap. I want to make sure that, when this is said and done, your team has what they need to keep our community safe, that they don't feel as if the rules we have in place restrict your department from protecting our community from the very, very small percentage of pet owners who are not responsible. Thank you.
Actually, as you said that made me think of something to consider is this idea of any dog that has gotten in trouble in this manner not be left unsupervised. Because I think one of the problems with this dog, especially when they got off their chain, was that it took a very long time for the owner to even acknowledge that their dog was loose. And so if there was some type of must be, adult or the, owner of the dog must be with the dog as well as the dog restrained, that might also, I mean, thinking about the things that have unfolded with this particular case.
So one thing might add, yeah. So as we talked about in that draft, it's, first incident would require insuring the animal. So if you, I can't speak firsthand to this, but if you do own a dog that does bite somebody, going and getting insurance on a dog that's known to have already bitten somebody is going to be expensive. And so what this will also do is that dog might just leave the city limits as opposed to somebody buying insurance after the first bite.
And that's an unprovoked bite.
Unprovoked, correct. Correct.
Do you hope to have this coming back to the council in a
Yeah.
form by the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we're in a decent spot already where we could have something ready to go for the next meeting.
Okay. We have openings on the Decorah Human Rights Commission, the Library Board as of July 1st, and Decorah Historic Preservation Commission. 2 on the Historic Preservation Commission will be renewals and 1 will be a replacement. Okay. Management, the city manager.
I'll just point out Iowa League of Cities, registration for, thank you. The annual conference is in Sioux City this year, so a little bit of trek across the state. But I know many council members have attended in the past, so that registration is now open for September 18th through the 20th. And that applies to staff as well.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Carrie? Anything other than what we've known from the department heads? Okay. Brent, anything from you?
No, I don't.
Christopher?
Nothing tonight.
Steve?
SMID is Wednesday in case no one else mentions it.
Mhm.
And I just thanks to all of the public safety agencies, both in the city and elsewhere, that assisted in the search for the missing kayaker. I'm sure that that was emotionally tough and physically tough too, and grateful for the family's sake that they were able to get some closure, and grateful for all the hard work that went into that.
Randy?
I have nothing this evening, Mayor.
And can you make a comment as far as your no vote for the sign ordinance?
Well, like I said before, it's encumbersome on new businesses if they want to come in. To the point of being close to residential, we have a lot of commercial properties that have residential properties that abut to them. And if they change what business they're doing in the future, they wouldn't be able to put in signs to promote their business by this. I'll pick on the bike shop, which has a adjacent property. A&J has one right across the street or right across the alley. So, you know, it's anti-business, in my opinion.
Thank you. Ross, anything on your end?
Just wanted to note that there's an aggressive deer down by the high school. It attacked my dog, and it didn't have a fawn with it. So it kind of lives between the high school and kind of back along the dike area. It doesn't look like an especially aggressive deer, but it is. And it came closer to me than the press table when I went to go out and get my dog. And it was standing its ground, and it doesn't appear to be injured or mangy or anything, but it's definitely an aggressive deer. So to the public, just no, it's a doe. I mean, yeah, and right. So it's there, and it will, you know, it's come close to me several occasions, and it's not the pack that normally travels. It's a separate deer. So just be forewarned as you have your dog along the dike area.
It will trail a lab as well, not just a small dog as well. Witness the same thing.
It actually,
Somebody with their lab in tow that had to stand routinely between him and his dog.
it actually hoofed a dog last night. So I was going to bring that up too.
So,
So.
yeah, I mean, if,
The dog was okay, but it started kicking at the dog. So I don't know, that was actually going to be what I was going to ask is like, how do we direct citizens when a deer is a nuisance?
My thought is if it's aggressive, somebody should call us in the moment and we would.
Yeah,
Come,
right
okay.
away.
Okay, then I will tell this person because yep.
yeah, if it comes back in my yard again, I'll give you a call.
Okay. Emily?
I want to echo, thank you to all public safety officers for their diligent work on the kayaker. So I want to echo that with Steve and all of your work. Summer is a busy time doing fun events, but then also maintaining public safety. So thank you for all that. I wanted to bring up the deer, so thank you. And then I know that two of us have already talked. There's been a lot of talk on Facebook, which I also want to give a shout out. Like if you want to get a hold of your city council folks, you can always email them. So every now and then I catch chatter on Facebook and I try to then gather that as input. But you can always email as well. But there has been a lot of interest in the signs, in stop signs stand on Water Street. And so I know another council person has already asked that we discuss this next time. But in between that, I was hoping that we could look up, even people who are in favor of the signs want to know what we could do in terms of visual impairment for folks who utilize sort of the sound of an actual stoplight. They really like the stop signs, but want to know what we could do if we decide to keep them, to make sure that our visually impaired citizens are safe as well. So just in preparation for that conversation next time. Other than that, thank you, everybody.
And then on the, your vote no on the, was it the stormwater one?
Oh, the only reason I didn't say it is because I gave such a diatribe the last time. I voted no on it all times.
Okay,
It really
okay.
is just a protest vote against the fact that I don't believe that the state should be able to
Okay.
mandate what councils are able to do within their own community related to stormwater
Okay,
in an effort to protect us from flooding. So I gave that diatribe. You can repeat it as much as you want.
okay, thank you. Kirsten,
Nothing nothing tonight, Mayor.
okay. Let's see. I don't think I have anything either. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you very much.